glad to be here. I can't wait to start talking about this. Something it took me a while to figure out as well, just like Dr. Gary was just talking about. So I'd love to share my screen if I can do that. Give my slides a little
Hold
view.
on one second. Let
Sure.
me. Does that do it?
Let's see. Da, da, da. Yes.
Awesome.
There we go. Hit play. Here we go. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about having a happy little practice for health and wellness professionals, specifically maybe something a little bit different than what you've heard in marketing, which is creating a tiny but mighty boutique business in less than full-time hours, ideally 25 hours a week. And I'll share more about how I do that. But my promise in our short time together is that I want to take some time to really define what tiny but mighty really means for a wellness or health professional, where people go wrong when they want to kind of zig where others are zagging, specifically what to avoid, how you can begin to focus your ideas in a tiny but mighty way, and of course, a quick start plan, and I'll share how you can learn more for free, of course. I'm going to leave time at the end for some questions, so please jot things down if things come to mind, and I'll be happy to pitch in. So, all right, let's talk about the first thing, defining a tiny but mighty business. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Go big or go home. If you are on the receiving end of any marketing wisdom whatsoever, you probably have seen a lot of entrepreneurial talk about one vision of success. It's the vision of success that you see influencers have on Instagram, on social media, all those success magazines and success books. It's the happy little practice approach to succeeding in your own private practice or a little business is the antidote to that. And the reason why I want to say antidote is, I used to think there was only one way to succeed. And while I won't go too much into my story here, I found that there is another way that's a little bit less loud, a bit quieter, and that it really suits some people. So let's kind of shine a light for a minute on what I mean by going big or going home. Going big is the infinite kind of never-ending chase of a large volume of likes, followers, and customers. It's trying to make mass appeal with your work for everyone to like it and to become a bit famous and be very, very rich. It's like the ultra capitalism dream, right? That is peddled in our country. And in Happy Little Practice, we kind of do it differently. We keep the big thinking that we've learned from mentors and our training of what's possible with our work, but also for our own lives, and actually go small, and we build small on purpose. And we do that using a boutique business model. And in short, a boutique business model is, instead of trying to make your money in your meaningful work through a massive volume of followers and customers, we have a smaller volume of clients and customers. We serve them supremely well, and we charge a premium for that high-level service. And so we don't need to seek fame, and we don't need to scale unless you really want to. And there's plenty of people who teach you that, but there's not a lot of people saying, hey, think big, but go small. It's really the antidote to that type of entrepreneurial thinking. So let's get into it. The essence of a tiny but mighty business is this. I call it lifestyle rich, which means we start with the end in mind. There's a reason why happy is in Happy Little Practice. What do you need in your life to be well, to think well, live well? And you work backwards from not only the finances of that. Well, everybody might be a little bit different. For some, it's multiple six figures or $1 million business. And for others, it's 6 figures or 50,000, right? Whatever it is, you get to decide. And so we work backwards from not only the financial perspective, but how do you, what would you define success on a feeling level, on the day-to-day level? And we work backwards from that. And then we have our business structure serve that vision. So that way we don't end up with this business that kind of runs our life instead of really funds our life and is a meaningful contribution to society. Another tenet of a tiny but mighty business is that we're a bit minimalist. So if our lifestyle, right, being lifestyle rich does not quite literally mean being, financially rich. Everybody's going to have a different perspective. And if you don't define that for yourself, society will define it for you. So one of the ways we execute that is we become minimalists in our business. We simplify everything. Listen, life is complex enough. There's enough crazy stuff going on in the world that we don't need complexity, at least unnecessary complexity. There's a lot of complexity probably in your work with your clients and customers. That's appropriate. But the actual structure of your business and how you work and how you market needs to be simple and doable, and to be able to withstand life's challenges, pandemics, snow days, extreme weather patterns. How can we stay in business when everything's kind of intense? We do that by having a minimalist business structure. And then the thing that really brings it all home is that we love simplicity. I always tell myself and my clients, I said, listen, I can't do complex because I have 2 kids at home, I have a marriage, I have lots of things going on like you, I'm sure, but I can do simple. And simple doesn't necessarily mean easy peasy, right? Like no success in any kind of private practice is really like a cakewalk, right? But if we keep it simple, we can make it doable. And what's doable, we can be consistent at. And in Happy Little Practice, consistency beats intensity day in and day out. I want to share just a quick snapshot of my life so you know where I'm coming from. What little or tiny, or I would like to say small, gets me is that I get to live where I want, do what I want, and work when I want. And I think that's one of the reasons why most of us wanted to work on our own terms and starting our own private practice or small business. So I live in the middle of nowhere in the country in upstate New York, right on the border of southern Vermont. I hang out in Vermont most of the time, right? That's me on the left there, looking weird with my hat on. And I do what I want. And, by that, I mean, like, here's a picture of the Alps. My family, my father lives in Switzerland. That's my daughter on the left there, and her great aunt on the right. And I want to be able to fund going there and keeping those connections with my Swiss relatives alive. And I want to work when I want, right? This is kind of my version of lifestyle rich. It's maybe completely unattractive to you. You may be a city person or something else, but I work when I want. And I work for me, my 25 hours a week revolves around my children's schedule. Those are my 2 little monkeys right there. So I want you to be thinking, what's your version of lifestyle rich, and starting to reverse engineer that. Okay, so here is why, this kind of approach does work when you understand what really lifestyle rich means. Remember the reason why we create our own business and what the money is for. It isn't for hoarding. It isn't for, becoming famous. It's to live well and think well, and of course, do well, right? Not only in your work with your clients and your contribution to society, but in your own life. Like your wellness must be included within the structure of your business. Otherwise, it's not sustainable. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 ways that people you want to look out for when you want to go small, but like really think big about your practice. Okay. The first thing is trying to be all things to all people. And most of us, when we go through our medical training or our holistic health training, we want to help everyone. It's like in our DNA. But the result of that is that we kind of become a generalist and have too many different offers that we don't make sense to a whole lot of people. Or we find ourselves having to hustle and work and kind of reinvent our marketing and our services over and over again to try to be all things. And in Happy Little Practice, we specialize to get away from that, because if you're going to do things in about 25 hours a week, you can't be reinventing the wheel, even in your marketing. Okay. The other thing that we unintentionally do is to chase the big time. Right? It's so easy to be kind of indoctrinated, conditioned to like so many unimportant metrics, like likes and followers. These are less important than actually having conversations with real humans, and a portion of those conversations become your ideal clients and doing great, meaningful work, right? So trying to be all things to all people, it's exhausting. It creates a lot of repetitive, reinventing the wheel kind of work, and trying to have multiple little offers all over the place, unintentionally chasing the big time. It's kind of, even my clients, like it's like we have to unlearn this and realize what are really the important metrics that you're going to care about, never mind what society tells you to care about. And that helps you become a bit more minimalistic and also get better results. And the other thing is we tend to charge too little, right? So most of the time we're starting with hourly work, or and we're only being paid when we're working. And there's a limit to that, because we can only, like if we're only getting paid when we're like clocking in and clocking out, we've kind of replicated corporate culture in our own business. And one of the ways that we also do that is we compare our fees to bigger companies. Part of that comes from, the like old school training of replicating, industrial revolution of like, if you're not big and, the most affordable and mass appeal, then you're not really relevant. But that's really out of date. When you compare your fees to like a guru or a mega star in your industry or just a big company, what you may not see is that they're making their money on a large volume of sales. And most health and wellness professionals are not famous and do not have a huge following, or do not make their money on a very large volume of sales. And so when you're making your money on a huge volume of sales, you can afford to have a really low rate, or charge by the hour, or have one-off offerings or many different offerings. What you also don't see is the staff to pull that off. But when we're a company of one, and maybe with an assistant or just some freelancers, we can't afford to do business that way. It's exhausting. It's not sustainable. So where do you begin? So those are some things to look at, like where do you actually begin? How do we get started? I'm going to share an example too, but let's talk about a couple ways to think about this. In Happy Little Practice, we work the one thing over and over and over again. And I'm going to bring this all the way to the very end of our time together and give you examples. And here's what I mean. Okay, so as a specialty practice or small business, you're going to have to become known for one thing, at least to invite people through that first initial consultation or first product or sale or consultative experience with you. Okay, it's much easier to say, oh, okay, she or he, they solve this problem, or they work with this person. It's so much easier that way, but it does feel unnerving, because, right, it rubs up against our own conditioning and training of like, help everyone. But that's what our colleagues are for. There's a lot of people who are happy being generalists, and other people who want things to be a little bit different. So you want to become known for one thing. It can be that once that person done that one thing with you and resolved that one issue, there's other things you do, but the front of the house, you become known for solving one compelling challenge, or maybe a big juicy desire. Okay, so, and you want to think also about one audience, and this will save you so much hours of research, right? For me, like, I don't look at stuff for multiple seven-figure CEOs. I look at things that will work for a company of one with a teeny tiny staff or no staff. Okay. So, and that wants to work about 25 hours a week, maybe 30 hours, that's it. So that's a very specific person. Very often this is a working parent. Okay, so one audience, not everyone. Think tribes, like lawyers or health professionals. Tribes are like groups of people that gather by vocation or some other passion or unique thing. For example, And I always like to look by vocation because in America, that's where we spend most of our time, where we work. So tribes can be small business owners, right, who might have a health challenge. It can be lawyers or other physicians and their cognitive health, or seniors in early retirement. Like, these are tribes of people. And we want to look at solving one solution for them, not six, and certainly not half of a solution, okay? And so the reason for this is, again, if you're wanting to work fewer hours, yet still make really good money and create a really good impact with your clients, you're going to have to get good at one thing. And that one solution may be the first thing that they need to solve before they solve all the other things that that you can do with them, right? So one problem, one challenge, or big juicy desire, one audience, and one solution. And the solution is in the form of your service. So what kind of solution? So you're not going to have 6 different solutions, different service or packages. You're going to start with one. Maybe you'll have a couple tiers, but one way to work with people. Okay. So let's talk about how you can begin to put this together for yourself. All right. This is, you'll take a picture of this or jot this down in your journal or a piece of paper for today. Think of all the things you could help people with. Which is your favorite? Now, when I talk to clients, they're like, well, first I have to let them talk about the should help people with and what their zone of excellence is, and really want to find their zone of genius, like the thing that they like to solve that gives them lots of energy. There are things that you're really good at solving with your clients, but are draining. And we want, for the longevity of your practice or small business, to look for one problem that you can really get behind as your favorite. Okay, like I said before, your audience. Now we want to think, okay, who is already aware of this problem or challenge and would easily and happily pay you to help them solve it, right? This is the clincher. If they are not able to pay you, because for whatever reason, they aren't ready to pay you, they aren't willing to pay you, that's not an ideal audience, right? It is okay if you are a nonprofit, but if you need to make a living, you have to go for an audience that already is aware and is thinking about the thing that you love to solve, like in the middle of the night, early mornings, or while they're driving, like they're thinking about it. And they have some financial means to be able to pay and will happily do so. And then, okay, here's the clincher. How can you, what is the simplest and easiest solution you could start offering? I want to underline this: with little to no infrastructure, right? We love to prepare. We love to get ready. We love to do our busy work and research and more certifications. How can you start offering a solution to the problem you most enjoy solving without even setting up some fancy website or anything? Because you want to get in the habit and think like an entrepreneur. Even if you are like me and never realized that you were an entrepreneurial in nature, you just started a private practice. I started in nutrition about 23 years ago. And to my surprise, I did not know anything about business or marketing, and I had to figure it out. So we want to get in the habit of having an idea and testing, like sending an email out to the people you know. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing. Anybody interested? Reach out and having a conversation with you. Okay, let's do an example. Okay, so the first example, I have one example here. It was a physician. She was a general family practitioner. And we got to know each other, and she said, she kind of whispered to me, my favorites are newborns. I love to work with babies. I'm like, why don't we do that? But, as a medical doctor, she was trained, like many of us here. Well, no, I can't just do that. I have to help anybody that comes to me. And through some coaching, we're able to kind of undo that. And I said, let's just create this new thing for the people who have new babies. And who are those people? New moms. So she was working with anybody in her community that wanted a more holistically minded family practitioner. but in her community, there was quite a few of them. How does she stand out and not compete with them and be in community with them? And so we created a new offer just for new moms who are, who are actively looking for a new family doctor, people who are pregnant, and just put that offer. And I said, don't change anything else with your current clients and just compare and see what it's like to work with the general population and also your favorite. And it became quite clear to her, like the general population were really like much more draining, required her to do a lot of research because she wasn't a specialist in all the different things and all the random questions they had. Whereas the new moms, like, not only did she not mind looking things up if she had to, like, it was just a joy for her. And so we took her work from hourly serving everyone to being able to refer to anybody else, her colleagues in her community, to just offering a signature program for new moms who are about to have a baby. And once they had their baby and went through that first year of medical care with her, they continued in her practice through a membership. And then she would serve the entire family, but the only way people got into her practice is if you came in there with a baby. And then anybody else that wasn't quite a fit, she was happy to refer to her colleagues, and her colleagues were really quite happy, right? And so we look at her website, we go to her website and you see, welcome new moms. It's not a mystery. When you compare the 2 or 3 other people who are holistic medical practitioners in her area, they're generalists and she's a specialist. So the new moms go to her. And that's just one example, right? It doesn't have to be a physician. It could be a coach. It could be something else. So the takeaway here, I'm going to go into how I do the hourly 25-hour thing in a minute. The takeaway that I would like you to start thinking about is you can make a really good impact without being famous or having an empire, I promise you. By structuring and focusing your talents into one solution that solves one major problem for one audience. And Dr. Jess, she does a lot of different things because her new moms and her kids, they grow up in her practice. And so there's lots of things that she gets to do, but the front of the house is just a single point of focus. So what we covered so far, we talked about the concept of chasing big and just really shining a light on something that we often don't even question in our culture, to choosing to do small is the new big. By creating a tiny but mighty boutique business. And we talked about, heads up, 3 things to look out for when trying to go small, but also create big results. You want to look out and make sure you don't do that or pull yourself out of it when you catch yourself there. And we talked about a simple quick start plan, like 3 ways with a pen and paper you can start kind of collecting some data from your own experience, whether you're brand new or you're starting. Okay, I'm going to open the behind the scenes of my own little practice here. Here's my one thing in action. Okay, so I turn an expertise, 70–80% of my clients are health and wellness people, into a boutique business, okay? And then I only work with service-based, mostly health and wellness professionals. The solution is I have a signature coaching program. People can work with me privately, right? And they can work in a small group. You can have more than 1 tier of your signature offer, right? So when I have 25 hours, I don't have the bandwidth to kind of make stuff up all the time. And so everybody kind of comes in and we're all doing the same thing. But guess what? It's never, ever boring because every person's different and it's like a unique puzzle to put together. Here's how I do the 25-hour work week thing, because I know people ask me. I still replicate the one thing approach. And here we're going to do some Q&A in a minute. Okay, so the one thing is, and I teach my clients this, we need one external marketing strategy, the main way that people are going to come into and get to know us and come into our world. And for me, I love to teach. So I just give classes and podcasts and I talk about happy little practice in a variety of different ways. That's all I do. I do one internal marketing strategy and you need one too. And for me, it's my email newsletter. I love to write. So I'm writing once a week, maybe 3 times a month, 4 times a month at most. And those 2 things kind of catch people on both ends, new people, and then the rest of them can get to know me over time if they're not quite ready yet. And there's other ways. I invite people to classes and stuff, but these are the two main ways, okay? And then how I do my time is I don't bip around to different multiple tasks because it's kind of discombobulating. I time batch. So I have my clients, in 3 days a week, in these chunks of time. And that's also when I see potential clients, right? I have speaking slots that I'm just generally doing them when I do them. And I have admin blocks, and I have my marketing block that's in about an hour a day. I call it the golden hour. It's something I teach my clients. I do my marketing in an hour a day. And how I can get away with that is I'm not doing 6 marketing strategies. I decide to just go deep instead of trying to be broad, right? In Happy Little Practice, we go deep instead of broad. And 1 week a month, I have time on my business or time off. So that is when I might schedule car appointments and kid doctor's appointments, or when I'm just thinking. I'm not actually coaching and talking to people, but I'm thinking and working on the business. In the private practice, we need in the business, like when we're working with our clients, but also off, time off, not thinking about it, but also time to just work on. And that's my last week of the month. Not everybody likes it, but to me, as a more introverted person, that really suits me. So this is the Happy Little Practice method. It's happy, and it's including your values, your needs, desires, so you can be well and do well. Otherwise, we can be okay happy working for someone else. And then we do little by a specialty boutique business. And the P in Happy Little Practice is taking your business and really focusing, simplifying, and whatever you do can be replicable. Of course, if you want help with this, you can watch a free class where I go into this for about 75 minutes. I talk more about Dr. Jess. I give you a free book called Rockstars of Wellness when you sign up for that class. And of course, if you are interested in talking with me, there's the link to chit chat with me. Now, in our last 3 minutes here, do you have any questions that you might have? Go for it, Celeste.
We've got 2 that came through. So the first one is, I'm a health coach. How do I convince people the higher rate that I charge is worth it? Okay,
work backwards. Like, make sure that you're choosing a solution, like a problem that is really compelling, and not just like get healthy. It has to be like, get your brain working again, so that way you can keep earning for the next 20 or 30 years, because you're starting to, your cognitive mind is not working as well. It has to be really specific and compelling. So start there. And then, rather than trying to sell like sessions or a package, it has to start with a compelling problem.
Awesome. Okay, got it. Next question. How do you not feel guilty saying no?
Well, it helps to know what you're saying yes to, right? It helps to have a little bit of a journaling practice or something, and really making sure, like, the guilt goes away when you know what you're saying yes to. I'm saying yes, like, I don't feel guilty about working 25 hours because I'm saying yes to being a really good parent to my children when they get off the bus at 3 o'clock, right? I don't get that perfect all the time, but that's what I'm saying yes to. And so if you take a little bit of time to just realize what's most important to you, it's a little bit what the doctor was saying right before I came on, like really understanding what's important to you and your family. And that may change every few years because of circumstances. And organize yourself around that is much easier.